Pop Culture Pastor.
Okay, we did our vocal warm-ups. Siblis. You said unique New York? Wait, no, that's not what you said.
Unique New York. Sorry, Anchorman reference.
I don't have a vocal warm-up, so...
You don't need a vocal warm-up. You're sitting over there with that James Earl Jones voice.
Yes.
I have to work to sound like a 14-year-old boy. This is my warmed-up voice. Cody's just like, this is CNN. Like, okay. Welcome. This is Pop Culture Pastor. Obviously, you heard Cody, and Kane is here as well. Mm-hmm. My name is Dave.
The gang is here.
The gang. Kane is you're a leading co-hoster right now, I believe.
Yeah.
I think you're leading the charge. You've been on, 4 or 5 times, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
I think we need to keep an official count.
We probably do. All-time count.
Yeah.
Justin, John, and Scott might be close.
Scott Patrick Dillon. I don't know who Scott is. You have to say Scott Patrick Dillon.
I refuse to make him a serial killer.
We have the geeks of the round table, and if they are the geeks of the round table, then Kane is clearly our Lancelot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Thank you.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So Cody and I are King Arthur and Merlin, obviously.
Yes.
Scott Patrick Dillon is Sir Gawain? I don't know. I lose track after Lancelot. Galahad?
Yeah. What's the one with the long mustache in Monty Python, The Holy Grail? Because that's how I keep track of it.
This pod has started off fire. Mm-hmm. We talk about a lot about stuff and pop culture, and clearly what we didn't know the world needed was a horror movie based on Winnie the Pooh. That's what we didn't know we needed. I didn't know this, but apparently Winnie the Pooh, the original Winnie the Pooh story by A.A. Milne, lapsed into the public domain 5 months ago. Were you aware of this?
No.
News.
So after, how long does it take? Is there some amount of years before something just goes public domain, even if someone owns it?
I know in England and South Africa, there are so many years after someone has died or the first line of descendants have died.
So Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. This is a real movie. Wrapped earlier this month. The first stills from the movie started showing up this past week, showing a demonic Pooh and Piglet about to pounce on a scantily clad young woman relaxing in a hot tub. Because, of course.
What on earth?
I mean, right?
That's what I imagine the real Winnie the Pooh would do.
In an interview with Variety, director Reese Waterfield, who's in post-productions on 4 other films. Oh, my goodness. So not only is he doing Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, but simultaneously is in post-production on other sure-to-be Academy Award nominees, Fire NATO.
Oh, thank goodness.
And Demonic Christmas Tree.
This guy sounds like Ed Wood.
Said the response to the internet, the stills being on the internet, has been absolutely crazy. Because of all the press and stuff, we're just going to start expediting the edit and getting it through post-production as fast as we can. Oh, you don't want to damage the quality there, Reese. Be careful.
No, he knows what is happening here.
Don't rush through that, Reese. You don't want to damage the quality of this film.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, this guy...
That might cost you an Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have too many things now? It's because of streaming. I've noticed there's just a glut of things. Mm-hmm. Do we need all these things?
Okay, so I think all these things were happening, especially in the 90s into the early aughts.
We did have straight to video.
But, I think that it just wasn't so visibly aware to us.
Your argument is that there was just as much content coming out back then.
Yes, that there was a ton of people making garbage like this. And
I didn't. Your words, not mine.
I will say it for everyone. And literally, you just didn't know it was out there unless you were watching the Sci-Fi Channel at midnight. But now here it is just popping up on the internet, or you watch this one bad film and now Netflix thinks you want to watch all these bad films. So
I'm looking at a still right now picture of a woman in a hot tub, and behind her in the darkness is apparently Piglet, but he looks like a boar. He's got like the tusks and
That's realistic.
He's standing upright, and he appears to be the size of a normal adult human being.
sounds right.
Which sounds about right. I don't know. Are they actually Pooh and Piglet? I am curious to know the story behind this. How did this happen? Winnie? How did this happen, Pooh? Where's Tigger?
You don't want to know.
Is Tigger going to jump out and save the day? Is he the hero of this story? And really, if I was going to guess any of these people were going to go have a psychotic mental break, it would have been Eeyore. Eeyore's the one who would go bloodthirsty, right?
No, he's more depressed. I think he would do more self.
It's always the quiet ones, Cody. They're the ones you got to watch. That's what I've been told my whole life.
I mean, a certain type of quiet one.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Sir Bedivere's the one that has the cool mustache.
Oh, yeah. Good thing
Yeah, I'll come back around to it. You're welcome.
10 minutes later. Thanks for that, Cody.
Well, I can't help that you jumped right to Winnie the Pooh. So
how do you not jump right to Winnie the Pooh? I mean, this is kind of shocking information. Also, yeah, well, whatever. I'm not super into this. Speaking of things I'm super into, though.
okay.
Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. It's over? Finally over. Today,
over.
as we're recording. Mm-hmm. This afternoon, Johnny Depp won his defamation case against Amber Heard on Wednesday, and the jury awarded him $15 million in damages. Is that anything to these two? Or is it just like trading alimony?
I would think that it would have been a bigger deal for Amber.
Yeah.
For him, that's like a Pirates movie.
It's actually less. He probably got paid more.
Yeah.
Probably get paid more than
But
that.
that was what the reason he was suing is theoretically he lost that job because Disney could have made 32 more Pirates movies with Johnny Depp that I didn't care about.
Instead,
That apparently some people did and kept giving them money.
they're going a new route. So
I think it's probably more about the fact that he was right.
Does this prove it?
Well, not necessarily, but in the public eye.
Or
it's
there's
like,
still
well,
people out there be like, I still don't believe it.
There will always be people out there that don't believe it.
yeah, like
What do you think lost it for her? Was the information overwhelming, or did her antics in the courtroom have anything to do? My wife has been sending me I get a reel or a TikTok every day. She was literally this afternoon watching the jury reading, the verdict reading live on her phone. I could hear her, and she was like, "Dave, you got to hear this." I'm like, no, I don't.
like.
I've got to go watch paint dry. I've got something more important to do.
When she's talking about her dog stepping on a bee, like I kind of want to see what the question was that led to this response and the dramatic face she made, and the way she said bee. But at the same time, I really don't care. Some people on Twitter had some very all-in reactions.
Oh, well, it's Twitter, man.
And
It's Twitter.
how dare you shame this lady that went through domestic abuse and keep rubbing it in her face that her abuser is now looking innocent in the court of public opinion, where I would say now it's in an actual courtroom that he has won a defamation case.
Yeah. Well, but it's like Kane says too. Some people
Yeah.
are just going to believe what they believe. It doesn't matter what the court finds.
And then again, I mean, I can honestly see someone says something, someone shoves, someone shoves harder. I mean, those things happen. And so, yeah, I'm not going to say, oh, he didn't do it or he did do it. I'm just why are you all in one side or the other? Why does this matter?
After the case, Depp said in a statement that he felt like, quote, the jury gave me my life back.
That's a bit dramatic.
Was it? That's his job.
If anything, these two
Bro, what?
have if they made another Sharknado sequel, both of them could act in it.
Is he done? Even with this case, do you think Johnny Depp is done acting? Or do you think he'll get big roles again?
I don't think there'll be initial Pirates level roles.
But you think he could get back to it, like big roles?
I mean, movies that make into theaters, yes. I don't think he'll be experiencing what Thomas Cruise is experiencing this weekend.
Well, yeah, I almost don't even want to go there. We are talking about Top Gun later.
Yeah.
But Twitter had thoughts about Scientology and should we be celebrating the Twitter had all sorts of thoughts about the new Top Gun, but let's
Like
let's not get into the industrial military complex stuff
yet.
We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time for me to sit here and talk about how ridiculous that is.
It's bonkers.
It turned into a political thing because you had like all the Fox News guys out there like, Top Gun Maverick is a return to unwoke entertainment. And it's just like, bro, it's just a goofy, fun movie. Like, really? It really is none of that.
There was no commentary on society as a whole through this movie.
Yeah, and then you got progressive people saying, if you go see this movie, you're supporting the industrial military complex. Like, no, I'm not. I'm supporting AMC. Shut up.
Yes.
Like, come on. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. This country spends more than the next 20 countries combined on their military. Every time you pay taxes, you're supporting them. Are you really serious that my $10 for my movie ticket, I should be ashamed of myself? Get out of here. I don't have time for that.
I hope you can't sleep at night, Dave.
You're just looking for things to complain about. Also, everyone's just fine about being American until it's something they don't like. I'm like, it's great to be here where we have this free country and let's let in all the immigrants and do all these things. I like those parts, but not the military. I got bad news for you. The military has kind of always been a thing. We were literally born in the blood of revolution in this country.
Spoilers.
So, like, look, I don't like how much money we spend on military either, but it's America, man. Love it or leave it, as they say.
I'll stay.
I'm going to stay too. There are things I don't like, but
I'll stay.
Thank you.
anyways.
I'm an input, and I'll stay.
Yeah. Kane can be quite vocal about how it's better here than where he came from.
In some regards.
It's different. It's very, very different. You kind of think the two kind of Western-ish cultures, they'd be very, very similar, but a lot more different than you think.
Yeah. That's about it about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard. We don't ever have to talk about this again now, right?
Thank you.
Until Johnny Depp gets a job, then when it comes up again. Speaking of Twitter, speaking of the social media, do we need to talk about Star Wars for a second? Like, look, Star Wars fandom has always been kind of toxic, right? Can we admit that?
I mean, the people that like were super obsessed and kind of dehumanizing towards Carrie when she was Jabba the Hutt's slave.
I mean, yeah, it goes way back.
Oh yeah, you go back to the original movies, and then
of course Hayden Christensen, and Jake Lloyd.
I was going to say the prequels. Childhood Anakin and then adult Anakin both get like blasted into Kingdom Come. The guy that played Jar Jar Binks can't show his face.
Well, for good reason. Jar Jar can die. No, it's reared its ugly head again. Apparently, although, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Actress Moses Ingram revealed this week on her Instagram she's received hundreds of racist messages and comments on social media. She plays Reva on the new Disney Plus series Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I've watched the first few episodes now. The first couple episodes, I wasn't sure that I was a big fan of her character. I'm not going to spoil anything, but
don't you dare.
I won't, Cody. I'm not going to spoil anything, but her character, I just wasn't that into it. I don't know if I'm not interested in her character. I did know, like, I tried. Okay, I'm going to try really hard because I think sometimes a good friend reminded me of this today. She's on a podcast called the Barely Saved Podcast. I'll shout them out. We have this Marco Polo group with a bunch of ministers, and we talk about geek stuff. And she did point out that this whole thing, there's the toxic people that are openly hateful and racist or whatever, whatever it was with Hayden Christensen and Jake Lloyd. But then there's this larger problem sometimes that we don't see, which is like this kind of subconscious discriminatory thing we can do when we don't mean to because we just don't understand it. So what I want to say is that I thought, her acting was kind of wooden in the first couple episodes. I just thought like the acting wasn't that good. But what she's saying that I kind of made me think today was like, is it something that I don't understand about African American culture, or something I don't understand about being a female? Maybe where I'm just not getting the emotion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think sometimes we can be accidentally critical, but over the line of criticism to something else and not really understand it. Because obviously my impulse is not to be toxic. I want to critique, but I want to keep it at a critique. So if I can back up, I can say, look, we can all sit here and say, hey, it was bad what Star Wars fandom did to Hayden Christensen and Jake Lloyd and the people in the prequels. But I don't want to take away that Attack of the Clones is a terrible, terrible movie. Just bad. Really bad. So I still think I should be able to critique it, but without getting toxic.
Yeah, you don't have to dehumanize people for being in a bad movie. You can label it a bad movie.
Yeah.
And that can go to script writing, that could go to directing, producing. It can go to everyone involved. For Moses, I really actually enjoyed her character because there's definitely something driving the character to do whatever the character is doing, because I'm not spoiling. But
it's tough to draw a conclusion because we haven't seen the whole story. Yeah.
And but like your friend pointed out that, people have different cultures, different upbringings, and so they're going to bring in different aspects, and not knowing the character's backstory yet, it could explain a lot of why the mannerisms and demeanor that Moses displays throughout. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. Throughout the first 2 episodes, appear that way.
Well, let me just bear myself. I will open myself up here, and I'll bear what I'm thinking out loud, and everybody can just make their judgment on me. My impulse, what I want to say, is to critique her acting, and on a higher level, maybe not just her. It's not her personally, but critiquing whenever it seems like Hollywood wants to make a woman macho, they have to act like a man would act macho. Instead of, like, what I told someone today was, I was raised by a single mom who's tough, but it's not the toughness you usually see when a female actor is trying to portray toughness. A female actor trying to portray toughness seems like they're trying to be man-like, in my opinion, or what they think is macho man, right? And it just comes off weird to me. Now, here's my question. Is it weird to me because I'm being subconsciously chauvinistic as a man? Or am I onto something real? Because I think at the end of the day, what I think a good actor is convincing me it's sincere and genuine, right? That's the purpose of being an actor. And so when I pick up the feeling that, like, oh, you're just pretending to be macho, you know what I'm saying? But I could be being chauvinistic against I'm not trying to be.
So my sister-in-law, who is a lit teacher, a literature teacher.
She's lit as in she's awesome? Oh, yeah. No, literature. Okay.
Yeah, so she watches Yellowstone, and she's like, Taylor Sheridan doesn't know how to write a strong female character, and used Beth as an example. Like, no strong, tough woman I know acts in this regard.
Yeah, she's a cartoon.
Yeah, and so I do think that there is an issue within some of the writing, but then I don't want to limit the scope of what strong femininity looks like.
Yeah.
Because with strong masculinity, there is a stereotype, but then it could look way different.
Well, I don't want to limit it either. That's my fear, is because we're already patriarchal in that a tough macho man is more acceptable culturally than a macho woman, right? So I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like, every time a woman's acting macho, I'm like, oh, that doesn't seem genuine to me. So that's my thing. But the weird thing about Beth and Yellowstone is my mom, who's a tough person, as I already told you, a tough female, like, loves that character.
Yeah.
And I think it's because your friend is right. Taylor Sheridan can't write a strong female. For him, a strong female means she has no inhibition. But I think that actually appeals to someone like my mom, who is a strong person, but has morals, has things that hold her back. Meanwhile, Beth on Yellowstone has nothing holding her back. She's just unleashed, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that appeals. I think that's why Beth, even the caricature that she's become, kind of appeals to some women. I don't know. It's interesting. This is all an interesting conversation. I think Kane fell asleep, though. I don't know if he's interested. interested.
Oh, sorry. What was it? Oh, sorry. It's nodded off for a second.
Yeah, it's just it is what it is. And it's unfortunate. This Moses Ingram has apparently received racist messages, and this is, then there's the obvious exaggerative reaction where, oh, Star Wars fandom, largely white, is all racist, and it's like, no, not any. Like, part of this is that there's always going to be hateful, toxic people.
Yeah, and I also wonder how many people who may not even be Star Wars fans just saw images or still shots of the series and it's like, I'm going to send negative comments because I hate Disney or I hate this group of people or whatever. And you definitely have that faction of humanity out there that,
well, for sure,
we're polarized right now.
Yeah, everything becomes part of this big argument, right? That the country's constantly having. And so once it steps into that domain, like I said, you have like Top Gun. Mm-hmm. You have conservative pundits jumping on the movie being like, it's the best movie ever because it's not woke. And I'm just like, well, it's a little woke.
Yeah.
It's not like they abandoned it completely. It's got 21st century sensibility in it.
Oh, yeah. And there's a couple scenes I can think of off the top of my head that...
like, okay, but, whatever. Anyways, it is what it is, and it's terrible that Moses Ingram... And by the way, the third episode, which dropped as we're recording this morning, early this morning, I thought she was better at it. So I think her character... what I'm thinking is that she's supposed to be a little repressed. She's repressing a lot of rage and emotion. And as the series goes on, she's going to kind of gradually let that out a little bit. So I thought in the third episode, it was better for me personally. Anyways, I think Moses is doing a great job. I'm interested in her character. So, I think that's the best say. That's enough of that. We're going to go to the lobby. We're going out to the lobby. We're going to answer listener questions. Meet us out there. All right, everybody, we're out in the lobby. Welcome. We're out here to answer listener questions as always.
And to get some poppin' corn.
Of course. You're going with the popcorn.
Yeah.
Not chocolate-covered raisins.
I'm switching it up.
Oh, good for you. Variety is the spice of life.
It is.
That's what I've heard.
Name it and claim it.
Danica Giesman from Wichita now. I think they were from Manhattan, but now they're in Wichita, I believe. She asks, what is the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything? Did you ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Cody?
I did not.
Oh, you should read it.
Although, the guys from Monty Python had a movie.
Oh, the meaning of life.
Yeah, I watched that. And at the end, they basically have this long spiel that it's like no one really knows, and it's up to you what you get out of life. The meaning is, for me, we're going to go back to me being a pastor, that you love God and you love people, and that you find meaning with where you're at in life. Because if you're looking too far ahead or dwelling too far in the past, you're missing out on the things that are happening around you and the important things, really, such as family and friends.
That's a practical answer.
It is.
I wish I knew how Danica was asking this question, whether she was like looking for us our own spin on it, or if this is basically a subtle way of asking us if we've read Douglas Adams' famous book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Because if you've read the book, you know that the ultimate question to the answer, or to the question of life, the universe, and everything, that they pose to the supercomputer in that book, the answer it gives is 42.
It's always 42.
Which is not explained and has spawned many, many conversations over the years from fans.
And memes.
Fans of the book. And there was a story a couple years back in 2019. This guy at MIT solved a famous 65-year-old math puzzle with the answer from Douglas Adams' book 42. The sum of three cubes puzzle, which was apparently, I had to look it up, it was set down in 1954 at the University of Cambridge. But Booker, this guy named Andrew Booker at Bristol University, and then Andrew Sutherland from MIT, formed an ingenious algorithm and spent weeks on the university's supercomputer. He was using the wrong number, but he turned to turned to solve for 42. And it worked out. He solved this decades-old math problem. It's like Good Will Hunting, except more sci-fi, I guess. More Douglas Adams-y.
Are you saying Douglas Adams was prophetic?
Maybe, although maybe what he's tapping into there is that everything we know, life, the universe, and everything is very mathematical. One might say it's very intelligently designed, very specific.
Yeah. So, in short, I have not read the book, but I have seen the meaning of life. So
That's a great answer. That sounded so deep. And all you had to do is take Monty Python's out of it.
yeah.
That sounded very deep. Kyle Kessinger asks, what are your favorite classic films? He says, say like pre-1985. I feel like 1985 is not early enough to be classic because I'm older. So I'm going to say before 1980 to be classic. He says his favorites are Rio Bravo and Smokey and the Bandit.
Do love me some Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah. But if it's before 1980, first of all, Rocky and Star Wars come to mind immediately as favorite classic movies. But they don't seem classic to me. Let me hear yours. What would you say are your favorite classic movies?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot.
Are you? I mean, it's okay if you're not a fan of older movies.
Oh, no. I've seen a lot of older
Oh,
movies.
it's because there's too many.
There are a lot. And, Fistful of Dollars. Like, Westerns were huge in my household growing up. And so the Clint Eastwood ones were on a lot. There was quite a few John Wayne movies. So if the Duke's on and there's nothing else on, I'm happy to watch it. Even with the current political climate around John. So if we go with 1985.
Okay. I'll allow it since you're younger.
You get Indiana Jones.
See, that doesn't seem classic to me, but okay.
You get...
it gets real easy when you can include the early 80s.
Ghostbusters, is that 84?
I think so.
And so you start getting some movies that, like, for older millennials, such as myself, you're like, oh, that's an all-time classic.
I'll allow it because they were before you were born.
Annie Hall.
Let's amend the question. Any movie to be considered classic in your context would have to have come out before you were born.
Oh, yeah.
That makes it harder for me because I was born in 76 and I can't include Star Wars.
89. So I can include a lot of things. Goonies.
Right. First of all, Westerns were always on around my extended family as well. My extended family all loves Westerns. I have an aunt who adores John Wayne. My grandpa, I believe, liked John Wayne movies. But if I'm being honest, I never really got into Western and really have never been a big fan of older movies. But there are a couple that stick out of my mind, Kyle. One of which that immediately just pops in there is Wizard of Oz.
Okay, so you went Wizard of Oz. I completely forgot the whole Godfather trilogy.
Yeah, Godfather is good, but again, not one of my favorites. Wizard of Oz. So this is where we have to step back into like a time machine and understand how TV worked, because even now as an older person, but with the way TV works now where we can just stream whatever we want, it feels like a different world. So back when I was real young, Wizard of Oz would come on once a year by whatever network happened to own it at the time, because there were the three networks. There was ABC, NBC, CBS, and whatever network happened to own it back then, and I don't remember who it was, would put it on once a year. It was like an event. And if you were a kid, you're like, oh, this Friday's the day they're going to put on Wizard of Oz. I got to be in front of a TV. And you would schedule your whole life around it. And Wizard of Oz was just, I remember it being such an event when it came on. It was almost as good as going to the movie theater because you would sit down and you would watch it, even with the commercials, which were annoying. But I can remember all the feelings I felt as a kid watching the movie. So there's the black and white beginning. They live in Kansas, which I had an affinity. Like it made me feel a closeness to it. There was a tornado. And then boom, color when she arrives in Oz.
Technicolor.
And the weirdness and the fantasticalness of all of that as she starts down the road. Then it gets scary because the witch is chasing him. And I was really afraid of the flying monkeys. And they finally make it to the wizard, and he's a punk.
He is.
And clearly the dude from the guy from the beginning that she runs into out in Kansas. which then I was too young to get, but now like you're supposed to question the whole thing. Like, is she having a concussed fever dream?
Happens to the best of us, really.
Yeah.
So while you were displaying your affection for this movie, I thought of like a few more.
Okay, go. Yeah.
Okay.
Just rattle them off.
So Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, yeah. That's
Love
really
that
good.
movie.
It's really good.
Another Gregory Peck movie, Roman Holiday, starring of one Miss Audrey Hepburn as well. And that's just fun. It's a fun movie. And then I will go with Vertigo, starring James Stewart, Alfred Hitchcock.
Hitchcock, yeah.
I do enjoy a good Hitchcock movie, so.
Jimmy Stewart. I was walking down the street and I saw a rabbit.
Oh, Harvey. I love Harvey. Oh, I made my mom watch that one because, like, for some reason, well, I do know the reason. She grew up on a farm and they didn't watch TV. You were working. And so she didn't watch Harvey ever.
The weird thing is, a lot of those movies you were saying, I remember seeing them and I remember liking them, but I just didn't, there wasn't repeat viewing for me for a lot of classic movies. So, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is a great movie and I liked it, but I don't remember watching it after I watched it once. The other one you mentioned, Kill a Mockingbird. It's fantastic. Fantastic movie. And I think I've seen it a couple times, but it's not one I go back to. Now, there is one last one I should mention that I do go back to because it's very rare for me to go back to a classic. But this one we watch multiple times per year, and that would be White Christmas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
White Christmas is a favorite of my entire family, and I just love it. It just, when I watch it, it feels like Christmas to me. It just hits me in all the right memories and nostalgia and heart.
Of course, with our definition, Home Alone is a classic. It's older than me.
That's true. But yeah, and people understand that's those kind of movies. White Christmas gives me the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby Tap Dance with Danny Kaye. Good stuff. Eric Farmer asks, if you collected comics, what was the issue that you remember the most / meant the most to you? Do you have an issue of comic books?
Okay, so like growing up, I had a few comics, but like my family wasn't into that, and so I really wasn't into that. So it would be a graphic novel that means a lot to me, and that would be, just gotta make sure that my memory is not failing me. But it is a Dark Knight one, and I believe
is it the one where Bane breaks his back?
Nightfall.
That's the one. I figured that would be your favorite. There are some that just stick out to you because they were big events. And I remember the death of Superman was like that for me. Even though we can look back at it and say it wasn't a great story. He came back anyways. He wasn't really dead.
Spoilers.
Yeah. But that issue, I mean, I had it like individually wrapped, like it was bagged. It came in a bag and I never opened it. It had the black bag with the bloody Superman emblem on it. Nice. Yeah. So I figured that one might be special to you.
Nightfall, like that whole first graphic novel.
There is one other issue that sticks out in my mind. I remember buying The Amazing Spider-Man. It was after they started renumbering. It might have been 36, but it was the 9/11 issue. They stopped. So when 9/11 happened, like a lot of things in the entertainment industry stopped. TV shows, movies, just everything. Sports stopped for a few weeks at least. And then when they came back, that Spider-Man comic was one of the first ones after they came back. And it was an all black cover. It just had the Spider-Man logo at the top, and then it was all black. And the whole story, so the Spider-Man comics were probably in the middle of some sort of story arc. But when that issue came out, it had nothing to do with anything that had previously been going on. And it was just Spider-Man dealing with the aftermath. 11. And like, I remember the last panel of the comic was Spider-Man crying with emergency personnel standing like on the rubble of what was left of the World Trade Center. It's a very emotional issue, comic book issue. I just remember that meant a lot to have that, and I collected it. I had it until I sold my collection here a few years.
Yeah.
But I kept it in pristine condition and made like that comic was just important to me. I loved it.
So yeah, that was a good one.
All right. Those are good questions.
Very good.
Thank you so much. We've got a couple other questions we haven't got to yet that we'll get to, but we'll post another thing on our social media. Make sure and be on the lookout for that for Ask Us Anything. And when you ask us these questions, this is where we talk about them here in the lobby. So be on the lookout for that in our social media. We are about to go back into the studio to continue on to our main subject for today. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, we are back. It is a Be Kind Rewind episode here on Pop Culture Pastor, and we're here to talk about the OG, the original Top Gun.
Actually, hang on a second.
Yeah?
I think I need to stop you there. I think we need some sound effects for this.
Man, we really need that. Yeah, that opening music.
Boom. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, now you can continue.
Oh, man. And by the way, anyone see the new Top Gun and about 3 minutes into it, you're thinking, is this just the old movie? Are they just playing the old movie? Because it starts exactly the same. The credits in the same font. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is legitimately exactly the same.
The identical script explaining what Top Gun is, like it's identical to the first movie.
And the music's identical,
Yep.
right down to the part where they're showing all the planes taxiing and getting ready, and then as soon as they hit the jets and takes off, the Loggins starts in.
Yep.
Although that's a new recorded version of Danger Zone.
Wow.
It might be, but to me, it's all Loggins.
Yeah.
I was right back at home.
I thought it was the original.
I thought it was the original too.
Yeah.
No, he re-recorded it specially for.
Cool.
Well, then he's still got it.
Yeah.
Well, of course he does.
He's still got it.
He's Kenny Loggins.
Yeah.
Put some respect on his name.
We are here to talk about the original Top Gun, though, that came out in 1986, directed by Tony Scott. May 16th, 1986 is when it came out. Made $357 million at the box office. This was a huge, huge movie, and it was iconic in a lot of ways. I remember for me, this was a second tier, like when I stayed homesick from school. Like first tier was Goonies. I was watching every time I stayed homesick, and maybe Return of the Jedi. And then you usually had enough time for a third movie. And this was in a revolving door of movies that I would make that third movie. Top Gun would revolve with like The Burbs. For whatever reason, I really like The Burbs. And some other Monster Squad was another one. But Top Gun, I don't know if another movie captures the spirit of 1980s America than this movie. And watching it again just kind of brought all of that back. It has all of the elements, and we'll get into the tropes, so many tropes, but it has all the elements of like 80s America, really jingoistic, which jingoistic is basically when your patriotism is cartoonish, right?
Thank you for those of us who don't have that word in their lexicon.
Yeah, to be jingoistic is just over the top patriotic, to the point where you're kind of a caricature. But I just remember this being really, really iconic. Kane, where does it hit you?
Well, often when I'm on this podcast, I may have noticed I'm a little bit quiet, just because often when I watch a movie, I kind of just watch it for entertainment's sake, and then I find it difficult to form thoughts about it. I'm just like, well, good, I enjoyed it. But finally, I feel like I'm actually an expert on the movie subject matter that we're talking about, because this movie was my all-time favorite movie as a kid.
Wow.
In fact, growing up in New Zealand, I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
No.
It was like all through my like childhood and early teens, that was my goal. Like that was what I always wanted to be, as a fighter pilot. I don't know whether it was I wanted to be that before I saw this movie or after this movie, but this one hits right in the feels. Yeah, it's gloriously cliche. Gloriously cliche.
That's a great way to put it.
But But I love this movie. I always have. It's one that's close to my heart.
Wow, it's good to get the perspective of someone who's didn't grow up American, because for us it's just like it's natural to be in the '80s. It was just natural to be jingoistic. This is why movies like Red Dawn hit us in the feels, right? This is the same Rocky IV. This is the same alley as all those movies, and it's because it's never stated they're Russian, but clearly they're Russian, right? They got the red star on their planes. One of my favorite things, the favorite trope about Top Gun movies, and is true of the new one, and I don't know how many people notice this, but the bad guys have dark masks that you can't see. The good guys have no mask. You can clearly see their faces. But the bad pilots have like Darth Vader suits. it's so fun. Cody, you're younger.
Okay,
so you're not born until after this movie has come out. Where does this hit you?
So I'm born in 89. Like growing up, it was on TV. Like it was on like TBS or something occasionally.
But is it more of a curiosity to you rather than iconic?
Like I liked it as a kid, but as I got older, like high school and college, it became something that was like quotable. It was part of the culture that like, hey, Iceman, or
talk to me, Goose.
Yeah, talk to me, Goose. And got the Need for Speed. And I mean, you get like random things from it. And so, yeah, like it was something that I guess was just part of like pop culturedom, but it wasn't like my ultimate fandom. But I held it up in regards for like 80s action movies. It's on my list. So
it's interesting for you because by the time you see this in any context, Anthony Edwards is a doctor on ER. He's not Goose. He's the ER guy.
He's not.
Val Kilmer has moved on to bigger and better parts.
He was Batman.
And Tim Robbins is actually in this movie that I'd completely forgotten about. He's a Oscar-winning actor. And Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise, the Tom Cruise we know of now. But see, when I went back and watched this today and yesterday, I forgot just how Tom Cruise wasn't Tom Cruise yet.
Yeah, he was raw. He
was very young, and it took me coming back to watching this being like, oh yeah, he wasn't a megastar yet. This is what kind of made him a megastar.
You're also leaving out Clarence Gilliard wasn't Ranger Trevette yet.
Your weird fascination with Walker, Texas Ranger, will never cease to amaze me. But yes, there's lots of other people in this movie that we will definitely have to talk about. But why don't we go to the Geek Phone and let's get Sam Passer's infinite movie knowledge on this. He can break down Top Gun for us, the context of what it was, how it came about, and some other things we may not have known. Let's go to Sam right now. To the Geek Phone!
The Geek Phone.
All right, we're on the Geek Phone live with Sam Passer. Sam, how you doing today, buddy?
I am doing most excellent today. It is, I hear about the 80s today.
That's right. We're going back into time. We figured with the new movie out, it would be a great time to go back and take a look at the original Top Gun.
Well, yes, of course. I think this film is probably one of the top 10 greatest films of 1986. I think
that's high praise.
Yes, and this was sort of written during, and it was made during a time when action films were really, really starting to blossom in America. People wanted action, some kind of escapism from the Cold War and such. Even if this was one of the main themes of the film. But regardless, this film is sort of another form of escapism for many reasons. Now, one funny fact that Tom Cruise was not the original one cast.
Really?
The lead role in this film. Yes. It was originally going to go to John Travolta, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. But two other contenders, believe it or not, were Patrick Swayze and Tom Hanks, and was considered for the role as well.
Incredible.
Yes. And it's funny is that rumor has it that Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise did not get along well, both on set and off, and that the tension between the two was actually method acting. They would apparently, I think, get on each other's nerves and basically make a sort of rivalry between each other to see who would outdo the other film. This was confirmed in the the documentary about Val Kilmer as well. And it's also another another interesting thing. One thing I do commend for this film is that as crazy as Tom Cruise is in real life, I have to give him props and commendation for him doing practically all his own stunts. Like his stunts are practically his own. And that I give him props for. He's been doing that ever since. And it's interesting is that this film sort of launched Tom Cruise into the action movie phase genre. Before that, he was mostly known for such films as Risky Business, which was sort of a teen comedy back then. But then he transitioned into action films, and it sort of became the action star that we know and love today.
Very nice. Let me ask you a question, Sam. Sam's Jewish. What's your take on the Scientology aspect, Tom Cruise? What do you think about that?
I don't really try to dabble into Scientology and all its various cockamamie ideals.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you much about it myself.
Yes. I mean, all I know is that a lot of their stuff sounds very depressing. The idea that, we're just bags of brainwashed alien souls or something like that. That I don't think, that just sounds really depressing in my ears.
Yes.
My ears for them. But either way, just because someone's a Scientologist doesn't make them a bad person. So, because Tom Cruise, in spite of all his wackiness and all his greatness, you gotta give props to him. You just gotta give him an applause for his commitment to his parts, especially with his stunt. I mean, he is really actually flying that plane. That's no stunt double. That's really him doing it. Now, of course, a lot of the things they do in Top Gun, real life, they would get kicked off the Navy like flat for what they do. The scenes where, the scene in when they're going over, when he's flying over and he's taking a picture over them.
In the inverted?
Yeah, in the inverted. And there's scenes where they're flying way too close to the communications tower.
Mm-hmm. That
is a big no-no, I hear, in the Navy. So many things they do are just automatic qualifications in many ways. But, this is the 80s and everyone was over the top back then. And everyone was going to extremes to sort of show how awesome America is and everything, which is ironic because the director behind it, Tony Scott, is British. You may know he's the brother of Ridley Scott as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And another interesting thing, the song Take My Breath Away by Berlin in the film, one of the signature songs, along with Take My Breath Away is by the new wave band Berlin. And initially, it's very interesting is that song actually inspired Tony Scott to film the romantic love scene. Upon finishing up production, he was listening to the song and he said, oh, we have got to do a romantic love scene right now.
Okay, so that wasn't a part of the original story.
Yeah, so it wasn't originally part, but he heard the song Take My Breath Away and said, oh, we have got to do a romantic scene.
Wow.
And it's really interesting is that if you may not also know, Tom Cruise is a short man in real life. He is only 5 foot. He is 5'7", made him shorter than a few other of his co-stars. So he had to wear extra, like a few inches taller boots to make him look like he was taller. And they also film him in ways to make him look like he's tall as well.
Yeah, they had to do a lot of that with Sylvester Stallone over the years as well.
Yes, they do. But either way, I think it's interesting is that speaking of Val Kilmer, you should actually watch this documentary called Val. How in spite of, if you may have already heard, he had recently had throat cancer, which cost him his voice. You have heard,
yes,
if you've heard that already. But what I admire about him is he doesn't let that get to him. He just enjoys life. He enjoys everything to the fullest. Because just like his character feels the need
for speed.
Yes, thank you. So anyway, the film itself is one of those films that are part of the criteria of what made 80s films what they were. Just these action films, good time, maybe a little heartache, but always a good time for the audience to enjoy, even if they were breaking rules that they could not possibly get away with in real life at all.
That's great stuff, Sam. You are a wealth of movie knowledge as usual. I'm going to be thinking about the possibilities of a Tom Hanks starring Top Gun for a while. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, buddy.
Yes, you too.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you next week.
All right, then.
All right, we're back off the geek phone with Sam. Sam's wonderful, isn't he?
He is.
He is a wealth of movie trivia knowledge, and we just love having Sam on the pod.
I'm glad that he brought up the documentary, Val, and Berlin. I need more Berlin in my life.
Is it Berlin or Berlin?
Berlin.
It's Berlin.
That's how we're saying it on this documentary today. Berlin.
All right.
Okay, you Americans can call it Berlin.
Yeah.
I'll call it Berlin.
Okay, we get the
It's a
normal
Midwest thing.
normal movie review rules apply. It's time for us to talk about our favorite scenes. Kane, this was your favorite movie growing up. Why don't you? What are your favorite scenes?
Oh, I start. Oh my goodness. Actually, is there a quote section? Can I talk about quotes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit the hit. That would.
Okay, because
I'm having trouble, obviously, but yes, that would be included in your favorite scenes.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah, because there are so many great moments in this movie, and there's so many great quotes, but there's two particular quotes in the movie that I have used actually throughout my life, and I didn't realize when I was using them that it was actually Top Gun references. So sometimes you'd use them and people would go like, huh? And you'd be like, oh, okay, never mind. But because I was in a band and, I play guitar, and inevitably people would come up and who hadn't heard me play before, and they'd say, oh, are you any good? Like, are you any good at guitar? And I'd be like, I can hold my own. And it was only a few years ago that I realized that I use that quite often to, it's a good way of describing it. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm good. Mm-hmm. It's not that whole arrogant thing, but it's like, yeah, I can hold my own.
And that's when he first meets, is it Iceman that asks him that question? Or is it
Kelly McGillis?
Oh, yeah. Kelly McGillis,
yeah. And she's like,
it's just
are you good? And
it's the only sign of humility he shows in the entire film.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I can hold my own. And the other one is, oh man, I've completely gone had a mental blank. But yeah, that's totally my favorite quote. Anyway, I can hold my own.
Yeah. Cody, favorite scenes.
So the inverted pilot
isn't that glorious?
Playing and taking a Polaroid picture. That's great.
Is it even American or jingoistic 80s American entertainment if you don't have like the main guy who's Maverick is a stand-in for what Americans view as a hero in this time period.
Oh yeah.
He's supremely talented, but he's a wild card, right? You don't know what you're going to get. And so like the inverted scene first on one hand is ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely.
I believe it would happen and probably did.
But when I see it, my heart swells. I'm watching it today on my phone. Like, I'm so busy today, and I wanted to get this watched before we did this pod. I'm literally watching it on my phone as I'm doing other things, and my heart swells at the moment where he's like, Goose is giving him the bird, taking Polaroids. Yeah. Hey, hello, hi there. Like it's so 80s American. But yeah, that's a great scene.
Yeah, I'm also a fan of any scene where they give Val Kilmer significant dialogue. Mm-hmm. Like he's yelling at Maverick for being wild and reckless and not having his wingman's back and those sorts of things. I'm like, yeah, you tell him, Iceman. Tell him. Because I'm Team Val throughout this whole movie. Because technically, depending on your perspective, Val might just very well be the better pilot.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about this because as far as 80s tropes go, Val Kilmer with his frosted tips and iced up hair is clearly the 80s trope rival bad guy of the film.
Oh, yeah.
You're supposed to not like him. But here's the weird part. Unlike the Johnny Lawrences of the world, he's actually right.
Yes.
At no point in the movie is he wrong about the recklessness of Tom Cruise's character,
Pete.
he's correct. He's like, you're gonna get someone hurt. In fact, it's a gimmick, right? Because he says early in the movies, like, you're dangerous, and he's right. And then it works at the end of the movies, like, you're still dangerous, but you can be my wingman any day. And that's like the moment when they do the man hug with the clenched fist.
Yeah.
I also like when Val does like the biting, like he bites at Tom.
Yeah.
So that one is another classic scene.
Yeah, there's so many good scenes. One of my favorite scenes, and this one is the one that lasted with me from the first time I saw it, is the she's lost that love and feeling.
Oh yeah.
No, she hasn't. Yeah, she has. She has. And when they sing, "You've lost that love and feeling," I was just a huge fan of Hall & Oates, anyways. So like Hall & Oates was just my jam. And when they sing that as a group, like I just thought that that's what happened when you got older and got to go to bars, was that we would all just do group numbers together. Clearly, as a kid, I just didn't really know. But Top Gun fooled me because I thought that's the way it was going to go. I remember when I turned 21, I was looking around at my friends. I was like, so we're not doing Hall & Oates tonight? We not singing? Because I just thought that's how it went down.
I think that's only when you're a naval pilot.
But I would say anything you would think the 80s tropes would have been on rewatch would stick out and be, that doesn't work. And some of them don't. But I found myself mostly loving the 80s tropes. Let's talk about James Tolkien for a second, as long as I'm talking about my favorite scenes. He's the bald, tough guy, commander. He's also the guy who plays the bald, tough guy teacher in Back to the Future.
The principal.
He plays the bald, tough guy in pretty much any 80s movie you can remember him in. And every time he's on screen, I can't help it. I can't look away. I mean, this guy, who most people wouldn't know his name, is an 80s trope himself. It's amazing. And then there's this one scene where he's yelling at Tom Cruise when he's messed up, but what's his name? The guy that freaks out at the beginning. Cougar flakes out.
He's a jabroni.
Now I gotta send you to Top Gun. He's like, and he does this 80s thing. This is totally 80s because you don't see this in movies now, but he does this thing that was like in every 80s movie. He says, "You're good. You're too good." I just laughed so hard at that scene because in the 80s we were like, oh yes, he's good. He's too good. Too good.
For his own good.
But you don't see that in movies anymore. It's usually now it's like the guy who everyone thinks is no good.
Yeah.
That's the new trope.
It's the underdog story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the supremely talented wonderkind who's just he's been hidden in the shadows for whatever reason. And in this movie, it's all this backstory about that you don't quite fully get about Pete Mitchell's dad.
Yeah, I completely forgot that his dad was even a storyline in it until rewatching it for
Cody,
this.
I do not. When you texted that to me the other night, I didn't know what you were talking about because I had not seen this movie since I was young. And when I went back and watched it, I was like, oh, there's this whole subplot going on in this story that I'd never noticed before about his dad and this like kind of shame he's carrying because it was all classified. But then Tom Skerritt's character, who's Commander Mike, what's his name?
Viper.
Yeah, he's
It's
Viper.
called
Yeah,
Viper.
he's just Viper. He's like finally lets him down, like when he's really struggling. Says like, "By the way, your dad was a hero. Yeah, they classified it. I'm going to tell you what happened. I could lose my career." That's another '80s trope, right?
This could end my career.
But he was older. So, like, how much longer are you serving in the Navy?
Yeah.
Come on.
And he's like, "I'll be
Viper."
your wingman anytime. You give me a call."
Yes. The son of Duke Mitchell, I'll fly with.
So I was just really here for any of the scenes that really played on these like 80s tropes, the singing, the group singing, the inverted, him doing tricks in the air. Like anytime he did something crazy in the air, it was great. You mentioned Kane at the end. You're gonna do what?
Yeah. It's like the greatest intonation from Tim Robbins.
And I also completely forgot Tim Robbins
Yeah.
was in this movie.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
It is. Like any scene where they use a soundbite from Berlin or the Loggins, I'm like, I love this. Make it just one gigantic music video for these two songs and keep it on repeat.
Well, what Sam said was so interesting, that the Berlin song being so good, the director liking it so much that he felt like he had to go in and add a romantic scene, which when you watch the movie now does seem kind of shoehorned in. It seems weird. Like, yeah, we already, although it was the 80s, like now I don't know that we would need a scene to make us understand that, like, yeah, they're in love and it's passionate. Like, you can tell it's more than just like oh, I kind of dig you. No, there's an attraction between them that you get. It's fully implied in the movie and you pick up on it. But yeah, now you got to have the anthem playing.
So to go back to a podcast a couple weeks ago, we talked about old geezers and gals.
Oh, yeah.
So Tom Cruise is 5 years younger than Kelly McGillis, and you're supposed to believe that she's been in this for a while.
Oh, but I believe it. She looks, it was shocking watching this movie again now.
And so,
Tom Cruise looks like he's all of 20 in this movie.
Although already lieutenant.
And she looks like even for 80 standards, she looks like she's in her mid 30s. She does not look young. In fact, you're introduced to her. She's on a date with this old dude.
Yeah.
Who even my 80s self says, yeah, that's the guy I imagine her with. Like, that looks right. I left that part of the movie thinking, because you're supposed to understand that she's older and he's younger. So I left that part thinking, this is either the worst casting decision of all time or it's genius. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
Because Kelly McGillis, no disrespect to her as an actress, because she was a respected actress. She's in other things and she gets noticed for her acting prowess. But this seemed weird to me when I was watching it this time. That was the only thing that was kind of weird for me. But we'll get to that later. I'll talk more about that in a later category. Scenes that could have been better. They don't hold up. And if you don't mind, I'll go first, because I've been wanting to talk about this all day since I saw it. It's weird how when you have a movie that's really your favorite or one of your favorites when you're younger, the things you don't remember. So I want to set the stage here. They've had the accident. Goose is clearly not well, probably dead. Tom Cruise he's over the sink in another trope. And he's washing water on his face, whatever. And Viper comes in, the commanding officer. Tom Cruise in his tidy whities for no apparent reason. And he doesn't get dressed. I mean, he's just hanging out in his tidy whities and Viper comes in like no big deal. Like, that's not happening at all. And he says, Goose is dead. First of all, full stop. Dude, do you want to deliver that a little bit? I mean, I know you're a military commander, but man, but it gets worse. Because as he continues to talk, he's like, yeah. And it's weirdly, he has this weird bravado through the whole scene. It's like, well, you fly long enough, you're going to lose some more.
Yes.
It's like, and then he keeps talking and Tom Cruise's eyes are red and you could tell the eyes are starting to water. He's like, let him go. Yeah. Move on. And I'm just like, wait, he just died today. What are you talking about? That scene was bonkers, and as it turns out, is a weird scene. Just weird. In our context today, although I got to think in the 80s context, that should have been weird. I mean, he literally just died a couple hours ago.
No, you got that military machismo going on. There's no tears.
That's beyond machismo, man. That's insanity.
You just keep on trucking.
I laughed out loud watching it. It was another one of those scenes I couldn't really remember. I must have just tuned it out when I was younger because it was so dumb. It's like, you got to move on. Let him go. Like, let him go. He literally just died.
Mr. Compassion.
Good God, man. So that was, for me, that was a scene that didn't hold up.
Mine is probably just after that one.
Okay.
Hopefully I haven't stolen your one.
No, because I have two scenes.
Okay.
Hopefully you took one of them.
Okay. When he's coming out to Meg Ryan's character, another big name actor. And she goes, yeah, he loved flying with you. He would have done it, but he would have hated it. I'm just like, so what?
Yeah.
It's like, if he hadn't flown with Maverick, he wouldn't have known about Maverick, so he wouldn't have hated it. He would have just got on with life and done his job. And then probably still been alive.
And the whole new movie wouldn't make any sense.
Yes.
Oh, man.
And then she does this weird little touch on the face and then walks off.
Well, there's a weird weird tension between them because there's the scene earlier where she's talking to Kelly McGillis while they're singing Great Balls of Fire. And the two women are having a discussion and she's kind of wistfully telling the story like, yes, all the women love Maverick. And you're just like, what's happening here? You're with Goose. But there's clearly some sort of like, she has a definite love for him as well. And then in that scene you're talking about, Kane, there is some weird tones going on there too.
So I took the scene with Kelly to be that she's trying to talk him up, like you better catch on to him and latch on to him because he won't be yours forever if you don't.
I thought you were going to say because she's telling her she's old. I mean, hey, your looks aren't going to last forever, Kelly McGillis. Just telling you.
So my scene is immediately after Kane's scene when they're doing the trial. Like they just are like, we're done. Yeah, it was an accident. No biggie. And it's like no dramatic buildup whatsoever. And then he's cleared for flying immediately. He doesn't need any mental health services or anything.
It's a movie thing, and I understand that. But having lost someone in an air accident who was a pilot, someone who was related to me, and knowing that those investigations take years to be resolved. It takes
a day.
The hilarity of that scene that you're talking about. We blah blah blah, and you see that. Like, by the way, and all of that being said, when 99.9% of the time in any sort of air accident, when there's not a mechanical error, almost automatically is chalked up to pilot error. And it's not like it is what it is. And so, that scene is doubly hilarious because, like, I have questions about what happens in the scene where Goose dies. Question number one, there's one of two possibilities here. One, Maverick is following Iceman way too close.
Oh, he was.
What are you doing? It is your fault.
And give Iceman the 10 seconds he needs.
But two, Iceman, get out of the way. You don't have the shot. If you got to wait 20 seconds, you've set up the entire movie telling me how if you think you're dead and you got to make a quick decision, and Iceman's up there like, I just need 48 more seconds. Just give me 48. No, it's Iceman's fault. Someone's clearly at fault here. And it's his backwash or whatever they call it. I call it backwash. That sends Tom Cruise into what Viper, an accomplished pilot, says is a nightmare span.
Again, you don't have to hug Iceman's rear end throughout the whole shot process.
I'm just going to say it's Iceman's fault. I'm leaning towards siding with Maverick on this one.
It was Maverick's fault. And then Maverick, and like now.
How dare you, sir?
Now watching this from like 35 years removed, it's like, oh, we don't have any mental health or bereavement time for Maverick. He's just back in and then.
Mental health? His commanding officer comes in an hour and a half later and says, let him go. Get over it.
Get back up there.
Yeah. If anything proves how little we cared about mental health in the 80s, it's those collected scenes.
And then like Sundown, a.k.a. Clarence Gilliard's like, what are you doing, Maverick? What are you doing? Engage.
He's literally in an exercise, like a practice, and Clarence Gilliard is back there having a conniption. What are you doing? Like, bro, he literally lost his friend 2 days ago, and Tom Skerritt came in and told him to get over it. Like, dude's clearly got some issues.
Well,
shocking coldness to his mental health here.
So, yeah, that scene did not age well.
No. All of those collected scenes were rough.
Yeah.
Like, yikes.
Any, like, from Goose's death until the final battle scene, like, it's rough, and then it picks back up.
There's not much time.
No, it's like,
by the time
boom.
Goose dies, there's only like 35, 40 minutes left in the movie. And the last 15, 20 are the final kind of battle. I thought it happened earlier. In my memory, it happens earlier, but it didn't.
No.
Goose is in it quite a lot. Do we have any other scenes that don't hold up? Those seem like the main culprits. Anything to dealing with the post-Goose death scene. scenes. Does the movie have any biblical references? The We Got Spirit Award. Are there any? I want to say there was some biblical references, but now I can't remember. The day's been kind of a blur. Does the movie have any biblical references, allusions, or themes? And I'm having trouble thinking of any.
I mean, Iceman being right is not a biblical theme.
Is it though?
I mean, Cody, if I had something to throw at you, let's just skip to the greatest story ever told award. Do any of the characters follow a Jesus-like story path or possess Jesus-like attributes? I mean, it's the hero's journey. So Maverick clearly possesses. He's the son of a great pilot, who's mysterious.
Yeah, raised by a mom.
Yeah, he's a wonderkind. He can do special things, but is constantly going counter to what people want him to do, right? He's just doing his own thing. He's a maverick. Jesus was a maverick. That's why they killed him.
And that's why Iceman was killing Maverick throughout the whole movie.
Iceman is clearly Judas. Sorry, Cody. That's just the way it is. I mean, I don't even know if we have to talk about this one. The winner of the movie. Who does this movie put on the map is clearly
Val Kilmer.
Tom Cruise.
Glad we could agree.
Your weird Val Kilmer thing. Listen, it doesn't hurt Val Kilmer to be in this movie. Certainly not. I don't know what his filmography looks like up to this point. But I mean, his real genius is probably before this, right?
Yeah, and then that weird, like, kind of airplane sequel, Top Secret.
Top Secret, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was not super successful. And then he hits this movie and he kind of goes a weird direction because
He gets to do Willow.
Yeah.
Because of this.
He's in Thunderheart in 1992, which a lot of people don't remember, but like I remember some of my friends. So he's a Native American detective in that movie.
Sounds right.
And I had a friend who was Navajo, loved that movie, and it's surprisingly good for movies that you haven't heard of. Then in he's in The Doors in 1991, right around that time too, and that's kind of the movie that puts him on the map as like serious actor.
Phenomenal in The Doors. If we ever do a Be Kind Rewind, I got this one.
Mm-hmm. And then weirdly in the mid 90s, he gets into this like blockbuster-ish kind of phase. When's Batman?
Batman Forever's 95.
Yeah.
Heat's 95. And then The Saint.
Ghost in the Darkness, which doesn't get enough love for
Yeah.
being a pretty good movie. Tombstone hits in 93. I think that's the best. I actually think Tombstone is Val Kilmer's best performance ever for my money.
So Tombstone, I'll go a very underrated comedy that will put Robert Downey Jr. back on the map. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yes. Yeah. Important movie for RDJ.
Yes.
And Val Kilmer was in that.
Yeah. And he was also Moses in The Prince of Egypt. So I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying Val Kilmer wins the movie.
I mean, you can say that. I mean, I'll allow you to be wrong. This movie makes Tom Cruise Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise was in The Outsiders. I think Outsiders.
Yeah,
made
but
it.
he was like 19 with messed up teeth still. He wasn't Tom Cruise.
Well, he still has like one tooth that's off center. Like it is the center of his face.
I can't not see it now.
Yeah.
I can't not see it. Every time he smiles, I'm like, ah!
So because I watched the sequel to Top Gun this past weekend, and every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, oh yeah, his tooth really is right in the middle of his face.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't know. What does he do before Top Gun? What's he got before Top Gun? Let's look at all Tom Cruise's movies before Top Gun.
I think Risky Business is the only one that's notable.
Legend in 1985. Yeah, he hadn't done Color of Money yet.
Or Cocktail.
Taps. He'd been in Taps. All the Right Moves. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Cody. This movie absolutely makes him a megastar.
Mm-hmm, totally.
He's in Born on the 4th of July in 1989, which gets him an Oscar nomination.
Oscar.
Yeah. Days of Thunder comes in 1990, which I always love talking about Days of Thunder when I talk about Top Gun. my wife, as we were exiting the theater from watching the new Top Gun, she was like, "Was Top Gun the movie that I had thought that Nicole Kidman was in Top Gun?" I was like,
No.
You might think that because Days of Thunder is essentially the same movie, except instead of a pilot, he's an auto racer. But he's literally the same dude. He's a maverick who does it his own way, and he's too reckless with the car. And Robert Duvall is the guy trying to talk him down. Let it go. Rubbing is racing. No, anyways.
It is.
Yeah. Tom Cruise wins this movie. We'll let Kane decide it. Break the tie.
No, I've got to say it, Tom Cruise.
I think Cocktail's what launches him.
Oh, Cocktail was fun. What a great movie. The Go Get 'Em Next Time Award. And let's just launch into this. Let's talk about Kelly McGillis for a second, because I'm just going to say it after watching it again today before this recording. She is so miscast in this. Every time she's on screen with Tom, it's just weird to me. And I think what they were going for was this weird older lady, younger guy thing that I think in the 80s, you had The Graduate and these other movies with this sort of component. I think this was just kind of a thing in the 80s, but now it just seems really strange. She doesn't seem to fit. When I'm watching the movie, I don't believe she would go for Tom Cruise. Like, I just don't believe it. She'd be going out with some admiral, you know, like she's important in the movie. She's like got this Pentagon job. Well, she's not even with the Pentagon. She's a consultant, which means she's loaded. She's making tons of money. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
However, I actually have a rebuttal to that.
Okay, go for it.
Which I kind of just thought of, because she initially really wasn't interested in it. Like initially,
Yeah.
But once she found out that he had seen the MiG, all she wanted to do was find out about the MiG, and then once she started to spend some time with him, then she kind of fell under his spell.
And then decides I'm going to be reckless in the car and chase him down.
To profess her love to
Yes.
I would really, maybe the problem is Tom Cruise, because we should have had a woman on this podcast. Because what I want to know is like, really? Is he, because I just don't believe it. I don't believe she would fall for him. And maybe the problem is Tom Cruise, because she seems like an accomplished, beautiful, older woman who could have her pick. And I just don't buy it, because I don't find Tom Cruise at this age to be at any age, to be very charming.
So, like, I'll go with Michael Scott and Jan. I'm from The Office.
They're actually quite comparable.
Because, like, she's accomplished, she's well thought out, educated, and it makes no sense for her to go after Michael Scott.
Except for Jan is broken by the time she goes out with Michael. She gets fired from her job. She's kind of adrift. Her marriage breaks apart.
Well, like,
Kelly McGillis' character has everything going for her.
professionally, but does she have it going for her personally? We don't get enough backstory besides she went out with an old guy and it didn't work out.
That old guy that when we first see her with, he clearly owns a boat.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm just saying.
But I will say that
actually a yacht,
Yeah,
not just
a
a boat,
yacht.
a yacht.
He's a yacht owner.
Yeah.
that if I'm going with the older lady, younger guy coming of age story. Garth Brooks had that song "The Summer," and that came out in the early '90s. And so I'm going to say this is a trope that is well earned and played out in this movie. I am not anti Kelly McGillis.
I don't know that I'm anti Kelly McGillis. It just felt weird to me. Like I said, speaking of the casting of Kelly McGillis, it's either the worst casting mistake ever or it's genius. And I'm not really sure.
I'm going with genius.
Okay.
I'll answer it for you.
Kelly McGillis just seems like a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Elegant? She's elegant. And the fact that she's around these kind of brash young fighter pilots is just kind of a weird contrast anyway. And that she would go for Tom Cruise, who probably just because he's Tom Cruise seems like he's the petulant young, like he's the little brother almost that you're annoyed with. Like, God, get away, this guy. Like, it seems like several other of the pilots seem way more mature. I don't know.
She could have went out with Iceman.
She would have made Cody much happier.
Would have.
Yeah.
For me, I think that it's the character of Cougar. I mean, literally, he has a couple MIGs follow him. Tom Cruise has his back and is doing some cool tricks, and then Cougar's like, I can't handle it. I'm out. And then he's done.
I mean, he's clearly a plot device, but let's role play this.
I don't think I would be that freaked out.
Let's role play this, Cody. You are a pilot. You've got a family and you're a good pilot, but all you've ever done are exercises. All you've ever done is role play. Now you're out into a real situation and your plane is alerting to you that the enemy combatant behind you is locked on with their, which we're to understand that once they've locked on to you, they can take your life. Mm-hmm. There's really not much you can do. Although Iceman weirdly, after seeing that play out several times, Iceman weirdly avoids 2 or 3 in the final scene.
Well, that's because he's a Top Gun, Dave. Winner of the award.
Cue Tina Turner. Simply the best. But yeah, I mean, I could see it. That would freak you out.
No. Like, if you're a career military man,
he hadn't even been to Top Gun yet. He's not that
He was about
hardened.
to get nominated, and he knew it.
But he hasn't seen any real action. You don't know how you're going to respond to a real life or death situation until the first time you're in one.
And he wasn't even in it, though.
He was. They were locked on.
Nothing happened.
Nothing.
He
didn't know that.
Tom Cruise is just goofing around with these guys the whole time, and Cougar's like, I don't know how to fly the plane anymore.
Cody clearly does not have a heart for our men in uniform suffering from PTSD.
He hadn't seen any action yet.
He did, and he broke. All right. Mm-hmm. I got you. I understand what you're trying to say.
He was so weak mentally.
I think you're being insensitive, but cool. Anything else that didn't quite live up? A disappointing performance from anybody else in the movie? I'm looking through the cast. I don't see it. There's shockingly tons of talent in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many great moments.
Yeah. Including the character actors. I already talked about James Tolkien, but how about Michael Ironside?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Famous 80s hard butt.
Just with that last name, you have to be.
Yeah, he's great in what little he gets to do in the movie. The Duke Stroud, who plays the dude in the tower.
Is that like the Admiral who gets coffee on him all the time? Is that
every time Tom does, Maverick does a flyby, requesting a flyby. The pattern is full. I love that dude's like totally oblivious.
Yeah.
Both times he does it. That's a negative. Pattern is full. Yeah. Like you weren't clued into what was about to happen, bro.
Because he had a record going into Top Gun.
Okay. Bottom line. Let's bottom line this question. Sam said it's definitely a top 10 movie of 1986.
Yeah, I love that.
Sam is amazing. Top Gun, is the original Top Gun the best action movie of all time? Is the original Top Gun the best action movie of all time? Sub question. If it is there ways that the new Top Gun is better? I was shocked by how good Top Gun Maverick is.
Okay, so I will say I might think Top Gun Maverick's better, but I think that if you delete Die Hard, Rocky IV, and a handful of other movies.
Better question. Does it belong on the action movie Mount Rushmore? When you're talking about the best 4 or 5 action movies of all time, is Top Gun up there? You mentioned Die Hard. Die Hard's clearly up there.
Yeah.
Is Top Gun up there?
I'm going to say yes.
Yes.
For me, absolutely.
Military action, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if you include the whole genre, then you might lose me with only having like 4 spots.
I'm going to say yes, too. It's certainly in its iconic status. It's hard for people who weren't around in this context in the 80s when this came out to describe just how big this movie was. Kane, you mentioned just I feel the things they say. I feel the need for speed. You know, even the high five they did.
Yeah.
We were walking around as kids trying to do that high five. And it's not, listen, it's you can't do that high five. It's legitimately impossible to master.
Yeah.
Nobody should do it because it's not cool. They don't look cool doing it. They look like dorks.
Yeah.
But we all tried to do it anyways because we all wanted to be Maverick. We all wanted to be Maverick and Goose. We all wanted a goose, to have a goose, a wingman.
Talk to me, Goose.
Yeah, which is beautifully played in the new movie.
Yeah.
Where when he's facing like these tense moments and he's talking to himself and he says, "Talk to me, Goose." Yeah. Do we want to say anything about the new Top Gun? I think it's a perfect. It may be for sequels that are long after the original movie, and to have the same dude in it.
Yeah.
It's almost it's borderline magical.
Yeah.
How good it is.
I'd have to agree. When watching the new movie, I felt like it was the storyline was so similar to the old one, except it had perfected it so much more.
Yeah.
Like the original was great, and the new one made my heart full.
Yeah.
It was so good. I wanted to go home and cry because it was so good.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good. So, yeah, if you haven't seen Top Gun Maverick and you liked Top Gun especially,
Yeah.
you should definitely go see it. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And there's,
Totally.
It has already entered the, pop culture, now polarization culture lexicon because there were, conservative pundits out there saying Top Gun Maverick's a movie, a return to the unwoke movies, and it became political. It's all hogwash. It's just fun. It's just a fun movie. It's a diversion.
Yeah.
But it's good. And I think, you got our thoughts on the classic Top Gun as well. I watched it all on my phone today. It holds up pretty well, you guys.
Yeah.
It's iconic.
There's plenty of inappropriate banter between the pilots.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of bad language,
Yeah. That's an 80s thing, though.
but it's great.
Because the new one has like one curse word in it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's a lot cleaner.
It's shockingly clean. And then
Yeah.
when I watched this one today, I was like, oh, yep, we're back in the 80s.
Yeah, totally.
So lots more cursing and taking the Lord's name in vain.
Because that's what military men do, Dave.
Apparently. And we don't mourn.
No.
Get over it. Let him go. Yeah. All right.
Now,
One more thing?
I do have a few more things.
Okay.
Actually, I was just looking on IMDb at the Top Gun movie, the original one, and I just came across some interesting facts, which
Oh.
I thought would be really kind of fun to share with everybody.
Okay.
The real Top Gun school imposes a $5 fine to any staff member that quotes the film.
Oof.
I love that.
Yes.
That's fantastic. The term bogey is misused throughout the movie. A bogey is an unidentified aircraft. Once identified, it is referred to as a friendly, for a friendly aircraft, obviously, a bandit for a non-friendly aircraft, or hostile for non-friendly aircraft that may be fired at.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And
Bogies sound cooler, though.
totally.
Again, I didn't say it on this podcast, but I've said it before. This movie is loosely based on my real life story of playing Star Fox 64, where you do have a bogey on your tail.
And one last thing, when I always thought that they referred to the guy in the back seat as the rear, as in rear. Okay, like the person who sits in the rear.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're not saying rear; they're saying Rio,
Rio. Yeah.
which
Oh.
RIO, which stands for Radar Intercept Officer.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, when someone was watching the movie with me the other day, they said, well, why didn't the guys in the back just like fly the plane? Did they not have controls in the back? And I looked it up, and no, they don't. The guy in the back of the F-14, his job is to literally just do all the radar stuff, man the weapons, like arm the weapons and deal with all the weapons and stuff, and look around and feed information to the pilot so that the pilot doesn't have to be looking around looking for aircraft. That's the dude in the back's job.
Not a chance.
So-
Like, to be in a situation like, think about that.
Totally.
You talk all about, your guy who flakes out at the beginning.
Cougar.
You can all talk about like a cougar, but let's talk about Merlin for a second behind him, who has absolutely no control in the situation. What?
He is 100% reliant on the pilot to get him home.
Not
If
a
something
chance.
happens to the
I couldn't
pilot,
do it,
there's
bro.
nothing he can do.
Poor goose.
Yeah.
I'm still not quite understanding what happens. happens to Goose. Like why that doesn't function better. It had. I tried to watch it several times today, and what I didn't catch before is looked like it had something to do with Tom Cruise may have been the one who was supposed to hit the eject, but Goose has to reach forward and grab it himself.
Now, I have thought about this a little bit because I've posed the same question because I've seen this scene many
What goes wrong?
times. Yeah,
what happens?
Like obviously, Goose's chair ejects much
quick.
sooner than Maverick's. However, I'm wondering if something to do with the flat spin that they're in doesn't flick the canopy clear fast enough, like how far it normally should go.
Okay.
So that when Goose
Because
ejects,
they're moving forward at a
Yeah.
fast rate of speed.
Yeah, so the wind would catch it and
Yeah.
flick it off.
That also is a good one.
Either that or there's actually like a two-stage thing where the one at the top is to eject the canopy and then the one down the bottom is to like actually eject the seat. And maybe Goose ejected his seat out through adrenaline too quick and didn't wait for the canopy to get clear.
Yes, because I mean that's going to play a critical role within the next Top Gun movie, the sequel that just came out. That you have to have your hands up here when I say eject. So, and maybe he didn't get his hands up in time. Those sorts of things. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. There's something to think about. We can answer these questions. If you have comments, want to comment something we missed, something you love about Top Gun, the original, go ahead and comment below the social media posts we make for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As usual, it really helps us if you subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't already, give us a review, rate us, give us 5 stars if you think we're doing a good job. All of that raises our visibility. And of course, make sure and like and follow our page on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Get all of your important pop culture pastor updates. As usual, as now we've started giving you little pieces of our radio show. You can look for that dropping on Tuesday mornings in between the main episodes of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
See you in the next Pop Culture Pastor.